Hello, lovely Year 9. Now, I'm confidently telling you that it is Thursday, the 11th of February, 2021, and our initial title is Mastery Review, and we're going to go straight into the Mastery Review tasks. Now, they are all linked to the theme of reviewing positives. So you are going to see for the first part, 2 sentences. Now, it says here, underline the appositive in the following sentences. But I know it's very difficult. Some of us aren't printing off. So you can simply write out the appositive. Don't copy out the whole sentence. Just extract the information that you think qualifies as the appositive. So a dream, the cherished aspiration and ambition of someone, can be either a source of hope or a cause of frustration and resentment. Number 2, Willie Loman, the father who has died, was a salesman. So out of those 2 sentences, within those 2 sentences, there is the appositive. Just copy out the appositive. Now, for next task, you're going to see a sentence, and your job is to complete that sentence by adding an appositive. So Biff, so you're going to think about the appositive that you can add here, believed you could have the wrong dream. Now, remember the rules of the appositive. They should begin with the, a or an, or an adjective, and they shouldn't begin with a W word. Okay, so how would you complete this sentence? What additional information about Biff could you add, or how could you rename the character of Biff? And for this one, Happy blank disagreed. He believed in the dream of pushing yourself to be the best at work. So guys, you might need to pause and just give yourself, I would say, about 3-4 minutes for this, because you might need time just to refresh yourself from yesterday and to think what information you might need to complete the appositives. Now, you do not have to write out the complete sentences for this mastery review. For number 1, you just have to copy out the phrase that is the appositive. And for number 2, create your own phrase, your own appositive that you would put into the sentence. Okay, so let's see what we come up with in a minute. Okay, so let's have a little look at the appositive then. So this first example is quite an expanded sentence. And here, this is where definition can be a really good way. If you think, yesterday we introduced the word dream, we looked at the definitions, you can use the definition of words as appositives. So a dream, the cherished aspiration and ambition of someone, can be either a source of hope or a cause of frustration and resentment. Now, a few things to note here about the technical aspects of an appositive. So, can you see the use of commas to frame the appositive? Similarly, we've got the use of the at the beginning. Now, we could take that whole phrase out, that whole appositive out, and the sentence still works. A dream can be either a source of hope or a cause of frustration and resentment. Now, to double check, though, we now need to remove the subject, a dream, and the sentence should still work. The cherished aspiration and ambition of someone can be either a source of hope or a cause of frustration and resentment. Cha-ching, cha-ching. It's ticking all our boxes for an appositive. Let's look at this next one. Now, this also shows how appositives can be used in a much more concise, focused sentence, but it's still doing the same job. It's still renaming and expanding the noun. Willie Loman, the father who has died, was a salesman. Let's get rid of the appositive. Willie Loman was a salesman. Cha-ching, tick. Let's get rid of Willie Loman. The father who has died was a salesman. Cha-ching. Now, it's still beginning with the. Okay, so that's an appositive signifier, and we've got the commas either side. Okay, so with this next one, again, there is various options. Okay, so the one I'm showing you is an option. It doesn't mean yours is wrong, but it has to follow the right rules. So complete the sentence by adding an appositive. Biff, Linda's son, believed you could have the wrong dream. So there's my commas either side. Now, if I get rid of Biff, Linda's son believed you could have the wrong dream. It still makes sense. Biff believed you could have the wrong dream. So an appositive can be about expansion. So that use there of Linda's son tells us more about Biff. Now, we could have said Biff, Willie Loman's son. We could have said Biff, Happy's brother. So there are other ways that we could expand, okay? But we've got Biff, Linda's son, believed you could have the wrong dream. Then we've got Happy, the angry brother, disagreed. He believed in the dream of pushing yourself to be the best at work. Happy disagreed. He believed in the dream of pushing yourself to be the best at work. The angry brother disagreed. He believed in the dream of pushing yourself to be the best at work. So appositives can be used not only in descriptive writing, like we saw at the very beginning of our time together with the creative writing unit, but actually they can work too in academic essays to embed additional information that shows good knowledge. So brilliant. Thank you for doing that task. So we're looking at Death of a Salesman and the importance of theme. We're still building on this big question of tracking the theme across an extract, and to that end, thinking about what the play is trying to teach us, what's the problem, what's the resolution. So we have been doing some tasks that are designed to get us looking at the extract and understanding it. And yesterday we began to focus in on these three characters and their use of a keyword dream. So Biff, he had the blank dreams. Charlie, a blank has got to dream boy. Happy, he had a blank dream. It's the only dream you can have to come out number one man. So all of these three characters are talking about the relationship really between dreams and Willy Loman as a salesman. So his job, so making a connection between dreams and work. But as you can see, elements of these quotes are missing. So to help us think about the connection that's being made between work and dreams, maybe the problem between work and dreams, which word would you use to complete the quote? So good, wrong, and salesman are our choices. So which of these characters talked about the good dream? Which of these characters talked about the wrong dream? Which of these characters specifically said that a salesman has got to dream? So I just want you to decide where you would put those words. Now, again, this isn't about a mindless copying out unnecessarily. You could say Biff goes with which word, Charlie goes with which word, and Happy goes with which word. You don't need to write out the whole quotes at this stage. Okay? So give yourself a pause and do the task. Okay, so hopefully you're back. So who talks about a good dream? Who says that his father's dream, this dream of the salesman, pushing yourself for the next sale, pushing yourself to always work, to go away on trips, to keep working? Who's celebrating that dream? Who's advocating that dream? Who says it's a good dream? Good. Good, it's good. It's Happy. The son Happy talks about a good dream, and he actually says it's the only dream you can have. So Happy is an advocate that the only dream to have is to make yourself successful at work, to be a successful salesman, a successful person at work. He says it's the only dream you can have to come out number one man. So we talked a little bit about this yesterday, this colloquial expression to be the top dog, the number one guy. And it reminds us of this level of competition that can exist. You know, I am better than that person. X is better than Y. I'm at the top. And it's this idea of using work as a vehicle to define success. I am a success if I'm successful at work. I am a success if I'm the top of my company, if I'm being promoted, if I'm the best at my job. So Happy is coming in line with this common idea, this widely held belief, this prevalent belief that work and dreams go together, that we should dream and be ambitious for our work lives, that we should dream and be ambitious about getting the best job, getting promotions, pursuing the next level up the corporate ladder. And that's how we're going to define ourselves as the number one man or woman in a modern context. So that's very much saying that works and dreams are absolutely connected. He had a good dream, that a dream, your ambition, your dream in life should be to be successful at work. Now, Charlie, what did Charlie say? Now, actually, we know it's not good. That one's gone. A wrong is got to dream boy. Now, actually, even if you just read the quote, you could work it out. A salesman is got to dream boy. So Charlie actually is very similar to Happy. He's got the similar ideology, the similar belief of Happy. And both Happy and Charlie are saying that actually work and dreams go together. Okay? That our attitudes towards work, we should see work as the way to realize our dreams. These two things go together, work and dreams. A salesman is got to dream boy. And for Charlie, he's saying very particularly that this kind of job that Willy Loman was doing, the dad was doing, is all about a dream. It's all about dreaming big, seeing the next big sale, the next big commission, the next big amount of money. A salesman has got to dream, boy. So they've always got to be looking to the next big thing, to the next ambition. Okay. Now, Biff then does stand out. He is juxtaposed to the opinion of Charlie and Happy because he has a completely different opinion. Okay. And he had the wrong dreams, he said about his dad. Now, remember, they're at a funeral. So the dad has died and they are reflecting on his life. So for Biff, it's quite a sad realization. But it's a good realization, maybe, if it's going to save him from falling into the same trap that his dad had, working himself to death, working himself into death. Okay, so Biff, he had the wrong dreams, but it puts him at odds. It puts him in conflict with Happy and Charlie, who have a different belief. Okay, so which statement then would you put with which quote? So who then, Biff, Charlie or Happy, would you imagine would go with this statement? To be good at selling, you need to dream big. You need to dream of the bigger commission. Never settle. Who could you imagine saying something like that based on these quotes? Would Biff say something like that? Would Charlie? Would Happy? Who would say this one? Being the best in your job at work is what makes you the best man. Your success in life comes from the job you do and the money you make. Who would say something like that? Biff, Charlie, or Happy? And who would say something like this? Your dreams should be more than your job. You should want to be more than the work you do. So guys, I just want you to pause. Now again, these are big statements. Okay, I'm not saying you have to copy them all out, but you could say Happy would go with to be good at selling. Or you might say Charlie would go with to be good at selling. Biff would be good at selling. Being the best in your job would go with ... Which name would you put in there? Your dream should be more than your job. Who would say that? So guys, just press pause on the screen. Think about these statements and who would say, and who would go with which statement. Okay, so to be good at selling, you need to dream big. You need to dream of the bigger commission, never settle. Who would really, which quote does that help us understand? Good, it's helping us think about Charlie. Charlie, a salesman has got to dream, boy. In other words, to be good as a salesman, to be good at selling, you need to dream big. Always dreaming of the bigger commission. Now, salesmen work on commission. The more they sell, the more money they get. So it's that kind of sense of being driven and pushed all the time. Okay, and your dreams are pushing you all the time to be successful. Who would say this one? Being the best in your job at work is what makes you the best man. Your success in life comes from the job you do and the money you make. Yeah, so that's Happy, the good dream guy, the guy that's saying this is actually the best dream, to want to be the best at work, to be the most ambitious. Now, Biff is this guy. Your dream should be more than your job. You should want to be more than the work you do. Now, I love my job, but I also know I want to be a really good mum. I want to be a really good friend, trying to be a very good daughter to my mum and dad at this time because they're both isolated and alone. So actually, I dream of things that are more than my job. It doesn't mean I don't like my job. It doesn't mean I don't want to do my job well, but it's not all. Because actually, when you only have one source for your dream, when all you dream about is being amazing at work, and suddenly something like COVID happens and you lose your job or you're furloughed from your job, what actually then can you fall back on? What's going to make you happy? What's going to be your motivation? What's your dream if suddenly you lose the work? And I think that's what Biff has realised and is trying to warn his brother Happy and his friend Charlie about. If all you've got is this one dream, if the only thing that you're ever aiming for is work related, what happens when you can't work? What happens when you lose the work, when the work goes? You'll end up with the wrong dream. You'll end up frustrated, angry. Think about the hitcher. You'll end up trapped. Think about work, sleep. You'll end up in this repetitive cycle that you cannot escape. And that's the warning, isn't it, coming across all these texts. We need a healthy balance in our lives between the value of work, but not letting it consume and take over everything. Okay, so lovely. So these are kind of thinking and helping us think about these themes that we're exploring. So good work so far. But we still need to just look at the end of the extract, okay? And every time we look at it, we're going into another layer, Okay, and all of that's going to build together to really make a rich and deep understanding. So guys, first step, here it is. On one side of the screen, we've got our extract again. I want you to find the lines, but why didn't anybody come? But where were all the people he knew? Okay, and I want you to tell me who's asking these questions. So again, remember we say this like thinking out loud on paper. We don't need full sentences. This is just having a record of ideas. So who's asking these questions? What do these questions actually tell us about Willy Loman's life? Now, although this is really his funeral, what are those questions telling us about his life if nobody came? What's it telling about his life if somebody is asking, though, but where were all the people he knew? Okay, now we will talk about these together in a minute, but I just want you to make some notes. Now, I want you to choose out of A, B, or C what you think the explanation is. So what are these questions, but why didn't anybody come? Where were all the people he knew telling us? Is it telling us that he had no work colleagues and no friends at all? Is it telling us he had no work colleagues, no friends, but told his wife he did? Does it suggest he was disliked by people? So this is more like your gut's like your feeling, your instinct. What would you say? Are we learning that he had no friends at all? Are we learning that he had no friends, no colleagues, but he told his wife he did? Is it telling us he was disliked by people? So you guys just press pause there. Now remember, it's only notes. So you're going to find out who's saying these lines, who's asking these questions, and what are they telling us about Willy Loman's life? And then you're going to just choose A, B, or C. Okay, off you go. Okay, so who's asking these questions? Brilliant. Give yourself a tick. Linda. So this is his wife, and she's saying, why didn't anybody come? Where are all the people he knew? So she's asking these questions. She's trying to make sense of both why he died, how he died, and then the funeral, why nobody came. And what do these questions tell us about Willy Loman's life? What does it tell us that there was a funeral and the only people there were his two sons, his wife, and a friend? And then we see actually at the last stage directions another character called Bernard, that he had so few people there. Maybe that he was lonely, that he didn't have any friends. Now what's this going to start to help us understand? That he was so consumed by work that he didn't have time to make relationships. He didn't have time to build connections with people. It's a bit like the Mark Slaughter poem, work, sleep, work, sleep. When you are trapped in that repetitive cycle, it doesn't leave room for anything else. Now, what I would say is interesting, isn't it, is that the second question, but where were all the people he knew? So Linda, as a wife, was under the belief or believed that there should have been people there, that her husband knew people, that he was known. So actually, it's not so much simply A, that he had no work colleagues and no real friends. It's more like B, isn't it? He had no work colleagues and no friends, but he's told his wife he had. Now, we could argue, you could have gone for C as well, that he was maybe disliked. Nobody's come to his funeral because he wasn't liked. But he does have his sons. Now, his sons don't talk about him as being a mean man. Although Happy is angry about how he died, he had no right to do that. There's no necessity for it. Actually, they are remembering him fondly. So I think we can eliminate C. It's not that he was disliked by people. It's not simply that he had no work colleagues or no friends. Maybe he had very few colleagues and friends, but he actually told his wife he did. He lied about his life. He lied about his life to his wife, somebody that you should be honest with. And it makes us think a little bit that maybe his life was a lie. He pretended to be success. He was pretending to his wife that he was successful, that he had friends, that he knew lots of people. And because of the sort of work he did as salesman, going on trips, he could keep those two things separate. So actually, that's the wrong dream has led to him having to lie to his wife to pretend to be successful. He cannot admit that he's not a success. So quite a sad funeral. So there's a sense that his life was negatively impacted by work and what it did to him. He had no time to make friends, no time to develop real relationships with people. Now let's look at this extract again. Now this time, can you find and underline the following lines? He was a man out there on a smile and a shoe shine. And when they start not smiling back, that's an earthquake. And you're finished. Could you find and underline those words for me? And tell me, who's saying those lines? So just press pause, have a look and find those lines for me. Right, I suspect you've probably done that quite quickly because they're quite early on in the extract. So it's Charlie, and Charlie is talking about you cannot blame this man. You cannot blame Willy Loman for what he's done. So we're starting to see that we need to fill in that gap, actually, don't we? What's the implication? What's Willy Loman done? What's the resolution to his problem? How he's decided to settle his problem, his conflict? He's killed himself. Okay, his death was a suicide. Willy Loman, you don't understand. Willy was a salesman, and for a salesman, there is no rock bottom to the life. He don't put a bolt to a nut. He don't tell you the law or give you medicine. So in other words, there's something about being a salesman that's a different kind of job. There's no rock bottom to the life. He don't put a bolt to a nut, so he doesn't build anything. He don't tell you the law, so he's not clever enough to tell you the law or give you medicine, so he's not a doctor. He's a man out there in the blue, riding on a smile and a shoe shine. So this is the image of the traveling salesman. Now, it's quite an idyllic image. It's a bit like in The Hitcher when we see the guy traveling around following the sun from east to west. This idea that for a traveling salesman, there's the dream of that job, that you're out there in the blue, riding on a smile and a shoe shine. Now, this is a really old-fashioned expression that means what makes a good salesman? A smile and clean shoes. All about presentation. That being a good salesman is all about how you present yourself. A smile and a shoe shine. So good appearance, smart, a good smile, that's what makes a salesman successful. It's not what they're selling, but actually they're selling themselves and the product goes with it. And when they start not smiling back, that's an earthquake. So we are going to look at this image tomorrow, but it's a beautiful, quite powerful image really. So if you're a salesman, your whole success is tied up with smile, shoe shine, how you look. So if you start being unable to sell, if people stop buying from you, it immediately says here that that is an earthquake. When people start not smiling back, in other words, hi, I'm here today to sell you, and they shut the door in your face or they don't smile at you. For a salesman, he's saying that is an earthquake moment. That's the moment where the ground begins to shake. They lose their foundation. They lose everything. And look at this bit. And you're finished. Now we see this idea of being finished in the Hitcher, fired. It's all synonymous that you end when the success of the job ends. Because if a salesman can't sell, he's got no purpose. He's got no purpose. Okay, so Charlie is trying to help Linda understand. He's trying to help Biff understand that actually for Willy, as soon as he stopped being good at a salesman, he lost everything. So what was happening to Willy Loman at work then? Was he good? Do you think? Was he keeping the sales going or was something happening at work? So just in your own ideas, quick notes, just like we were talking about, what's these lines showing us? That he started to fail at his job. He wasn't a successful salesman. People went smiling back. He was finished. He was finished at work. Okay, now an opinion moment. Is it a good or wrong dream to define yourself by the work or job that you do? So based on some of the ideas we're getting now, is it good or wrong to define yourself simply or only by the work or job that you do? Now, you will hear some people talk about this lovely word vocation, that some people really do see their job, their work as their vocation. It's what they were born to do. But if it's all you're for, if you can only say, I will only ever be valuable if I can teach. I can only ever be valuable. I think about David Beckham. Now, David Beckham was an amazing footballer. I don't know, are you old enough to know a bit about David Beckham or are you too young? But he was an amazing footballer. And actually, when he stopped being able to play football, he actually had to redefine himself. He had to create a new identity. And he started doing TV. He started doing more celebrity stuff. I mean, it feels like we haven't seen him for a while. He's disappeared a bit. But if you define yourself only by one thing, and that one thing goes, who are you? Who are you indeed? So there you go. Find the line. He never knew who he was. So who's saying that line? Good, it's Biff, because Biff is at odds with everybody. He's saying the biggest problem is his dad never knew who he was. So when he lost his job, he had no foundation. It took everything from him. Okay, so what does it mean if you don't know who you are? It's quite a big, philosophical concept, isn't it? Who am I? What does it mean to know who you were? Just now pause for each of these questions. Just make sure in note form you've got some answers. You don't need full sentences. but we just want some notes, okay? If you need to, you can re-listen, you can reread, but just for each of these questions, have a few key ideas, a few key words. Guys, so really then we've got the problem again, isn't it? It's that relationship between work, when work becomes all we do, when it consumes and subsumes who we are, when we lose ourselves into our jobs, and suddenly we lose our jobs, we lose ourselves. Willy Loman lost himself when he stopped being a good salesman. It led him to a tragic resolution, to a tragic conclusion. So let's just remind ourselves of that conclusion. So the end scene is all about Linda. So Linda, the wife, okay? Forgive me, dear, I can't cry. I don't know what it is, but I can't cry. I don't understand it. Why did you ever do that? Help me? Willy, I can't cry. It seems to me that you're just on another trip. I keep expecting you. Willy, dear, I can't cry. Why did you do it? I search and I search and I search and I can't understand it. Willy, I made the last payment on the house today. Today, dear. And there'll be nobody home. A sob rises in her throat. We're free and clear, sobbing, more fully released. We're free. Biff comes slowly towards her. We're free. We're free. Biff lifts her to her feet and moves out upright with her in his arms. Linda sobs quietly. Bernard and Charlie come together and follow them, followed by Happy. Only the music of the flute is left on the darkening stage, as over the house the hard towers of the apartment buildings rise into sharp focus. Curtain. End of the play. Okay, so can you circle the phrase wherever it occurs, I can't cry? And I want you to be thinking each time you circle it, what stops a person from being able to cry at a funeral? Could it be shock? Are they feeling frozen, paralysed, or they may be in a state of disbelief? You can either use one of my words there or think of your own. So just think about all the times as you reread the Linda bit, I can't cry. Every time you get to a can't cry, just stop and think to yourself, what stops a person from being able to cry at a funeral? Is it shock? Is it feeling frozen, paralysed? Is it disbelief? And then I want you to look at it again, and this time I want you to circle the question marks. What is Linda asking? What are the questions she's asking? And from those questions, what can we work out that Willy Loman did? Then I want you to look towards the end of her speech. What phrase does she repeat? What phrase does she say more than once? And what do you think that so that is Willy and Linda, what have they been released from, do you think? Now, at the final stage, I want you to look at the stage directions. And what is Linda able to do that she couldn't do earlier? So the stage directions see her at last being able to do something that she couldn't do earlier. So what is it? So press pause on me. Circle the phrases I can't cry. Every time you see that phrase, ask yourself, what stops a person from being able to cry at a funeral? What do you think Linda is feeling? Is she shocked, frozen, paralysed? Is she in a state of disbelief? Circle the question marks. What is she asking? What can we work out that Willy Loman did? What phrase does she repeat at the end? And what do you think they've been released from? Then look at the final stage directions. What is Linda able to do that she couldn't do earlier? Okay, darlings, so remember, it's only notes. We're not doing full sentences because we're going to use our ideas to do some writing as our last task. Okay, so we know she uses this phrase a lot, isn't it? I can't cry. I can't cry. Willy, I can't cry. And it's almost like in that sad moment of grief that she's talking to him. Willy, I keep expecting you. I can't cry. So do you think, did you say shocked, frozen, disbelief? I think it's a composite of all these. There's a sense of grief, maybe. And sometimes we're so in a state of grief that we almost don't allow ourselves to cry. We kind of, maybe she's trying to keep it in. She's trying to control herself. She's trying to hold herself together for her boys. There's an openness to that question, but it's one worth thinking about. It's quite a poignant end. Now, with those question marks, what she's asking, why did you do it? Why did you ever do that? So what's the that he did, do you think? Yeah. So she's questioning, she's asking why he chose to end his life. In the play, we didn't need to know, we were only looking at the Requiem in itself, but he drives his car into a tree. He kills himself by crashing his car. So we see this, don't we, this suggestion, or we begin to work out that the problem was caused by work, that sense of failure at work, a loss of success that impacted on his sense of who he was and his resolution to that problem. Like we saw in both the Hitcher and work sleep, it kind of leads to almost like that violent outcome, that violent conclusion. In the work sleep, the violent thoughts. In the Hitcher, the violent action taken out on somebody else. And in Death of a Salesman, he still acts violently, but towards himself. And he chooses to kill himself and crashes his car. So what phrase does she repeat at the end of her speech? We're free. We're free and clear. So it's this sense that they've been released from. What do you think? It comes when she's just started talking about, we've made the last payment on the house today. So what do you think they're suddenly free from? What are they released from? Good. They're released maybe from debt, from payment, from having to make payments, to having to work. And the sadness is that he was released because he's taken his life, and she's released because actually she wasn't caught in the same trap, the same wrong dream of Willie. For her, she is happy with only a little salary. She only needs a small amount. It was the pressure on him to feel he had to have the big amounts. So what's the final stage direction? What's Linda able to do now that she couldn't do earlier? So she starts off with all that phrases, I can't cry. And then by the end, a sob rises in her throat. And it says sobbing more fully, released. And then she sobs quietly. And then she is able to cry. She's able to grieve. And she comes out of that shock, frozen place and cries. So a completely different type of text to the poems we've been looking at, but in many ways, the same thing. So what is the problem between work and dreams? What conflict does it cause, and how is it resolved? So we're going to just do a bit of shared writing, and then that's us for today. So this play suggests that there is a problem when you, as you dream only of blank and being a blank, you lose all sense of. When you no longer work or are good at your job, you begin to feel. This leads to a tragic resolution, as in the play, Willie Loman chooses to because. Now, I've just put the quotes here from Biff. He had the wrong dreams. Charlie, a salesman, has got to dream. And Happy, he had a good dream. It's the only dream you can have to come out number one. So we're going to have a little think about how we can use those quotes. But think, this is all the notes and ideas we've been taking, our little working it out on paper that we can use here. Now we could add, we could change sentences, but this is just to get us started, okay? So this play suggests that there's a problem when you have the wrong dreams. We could immediately put Biff's idea in there. This play suggests there is a wrong problem when the wrong dream leads you to work in the wrong way. I quite like that one because we're linking dreams and work together. So this play suggests that there's a problem when your dream becomes your work, or your work becomes your dream. So as I go through, I'm going to give you examples, ideas, but I do want you to complete each stem for yourself. This play suggests that there is a problem when you believe you are that your success only comes from your work. There is a problem when you only dream of being successful. Oh, I've moved on to the next sentence, sorry. So this play suggests that there is a problem when you bring work and dreams together. This play suggests there is a problem when you have the wrong dream. Yep, so we've got some ideas for that first sentence. As you dream only of and being a, you lose all sense of. So Happy says he had a good dream. It's the only dream you can have, to become out number one. And Charlie, a salesman's got to dream boy. So both of these two are advocating this idea about success and dreaming of being successful, and that actually to be the best man, the number one man, you've got to dream big. So as you dream only of, okay, so if we think about Happy and Charlie's options that they offer, as you dream only of success at work and being an ambitious, successful salesman, you lose all sense of. So why did Biff say it was the wrong dream? Because he never knew who he was. So we could say, as you dream only of success and being a top salesman or being a #1 man in your job, you lose all sense of who you really are. So that one's maybe that would work quite well there, wouldn't it? As you dream only of work and being a #1 man, you lose all sense of who you are. As you dream only of the next big commission, the next big sale, and being the best at work, you lose all sense of who you are. So this play suggests that there is a problem when you have the wrong dream and you dream that work will make you happy. As you dream only of being a success and being a #1 man, you lose all sense of who you are. So we've got some lovely ideas to complete those bits. When you no longer work or are good at your job, you begin to feel. Now, although it's not here, it's the word that comes up in picture, the idea that comes up in work and sleep, and the idea that we begin to see here. When you no longer work or are good at your job, you begin to feel, begins with F, good, like you're finished. You begin to feel a sense of failure. You begin to feel frustrated, angry, powerless, hopeless. And this leads to a tragic resolution, as in the play, Willy Loman chooses to. So what do we learn towards the end? Why did you do it, Willy Loman? He chooses to kill himself because. Now, actually, this because moment, I don't mean to be glib. Actually, probably the reasons that he chooses that are more complex, but the sense is he cannot live without with that sense of failure. He cannot live trapped in that place. So he chooses to kill himself because he believes it's the only way to escape, to make himself free, to become free. So guys, that is our summary so far of the play. So copy and complete those sentences, and I will see you with our final lesson on Friday.